If you're already an Atari fan, it's likely that you already know that Digital Eclipse's Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, is one of, if not the best compilations of classic video games that's ever been released anywhere. Further, you probably already know that just today, here in December of 2023, they've released a holiday update that has 12 new games. What you may not know, if you didn't dig a little deeper into the press release, is that this holiday update is just the beginning for this package. I will explain, we'll talk about it right after this. This video brought to you in part by Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. This exciting and heartwarming coming-of-age Gen X novel is available now. Check the link for more info. Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thanks so much for clicking on this video. So the Atari 50, the anniversary celebration. Now, if you kind of look at this from a current eye, it's interesting now to know that Digital Eclipse did this working with Atari, and Atari now owns Digital Eclipse because they were purchased just earlier this year. So probably the fact that there is an update to an Atari celebration package, not that surprising. So they announced on social just a couple of days ago that an update is coming with a bunch of new games, but we didn't know what. There was tons of speculation. And there's some things that it's quite odd are not on there yet, which we can talk about in a second. Let's run through the list first. Now, you don't need me to tell you the list. You can find this anywhere online. We're going to rush through this. If you already know, great. If you don't, well, now you'll know, right? So we have a couple of homebrews. We have Adventure 2. Which was a homebrew, and we have Return to Haunted House, another homebrew, so that's cool to have. We also have a couple of prototypes. Now, not prototypes we've never seen before, but they were not in this package before. We have Aquaventure, a great game that was released as an XP cartridge not long ago, and Save Mary, one of my favorite prototypes that never got released, but it's getting an XP, or at least a re-release now, not an XP release, coming up shortly, and I've already got mine on the way, hoping to get that soon. Plus, we have a few other. Now, by the way, everything, save for one, is an Atari 2600 game. So no arcade stuff, no 5200 stuff, no 8-bit stuff, no Jaguar stuff. So the other legacy games that got added, one of my favorites, bowling. We also got Double Dunk. That's a little bit later in the life of the Atari. Maze Craze, very early. Miniature Golf. That's a frustrating way to play miniature golf, but I'm glad it's here. Moto Rodeo and Super Football, not to mention Circus Atari. Old paddle game, which on the 50 you can play with your controller or with your mouse, which is really cool. And then the Lone Lynx game that was released is a dogfighting game called Warbirds. And you'll notice looking at Warbirds, yeah, there's some pixel work going on here, some filters. And as Digital Eclipse does, they make Warbirds look like it did on the Lynx screen. Now you can turn those filters off if you want, but that goes just to point, first of all, to the fact that these are not just ROM dumps. I already said that confusingly. It is a ROM dump, I'm sure. It is not just dumping a ROM into this package, because all 12 of these games feature the kind of stuff that we've come to know a Digital Eclipse and the Atari 50 package in particular for, and that is a myriad of supporting materials. They all have manuals included, adjustable filters, an interface that makes game select and game start less confusing, and it's all available. Just tap the escape key and everything is there. So yes, you could already play these games. I will argue that having them in Atari 50 is the best way to play them, short of playing them on the original hardware with the original controller in your hand. But if you're going to play it in emulation, this is the best way to play it, because it's all encompassing. It's the entire package. It's not just play the game and figure it out. Okay, that's the games included. I want to stop just a second here and talk about, I was surprised by the games that weren't included. Most notably, Berserk for the 2600. Now, they just acquired Berserk and Frenzy and a bunch of other stuff from Stern. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the Berserk arcade game is not here, because in fairness, the Berserk arcade game is not really part of the history of Atari. That being said, the Berserk 2600 game is very much part of the history of Atari, and the 2600 being one of the best-selling and most popular games, maybe the most accurate arcade port to ever hit the VCS. Surprised it's not here. The other things that surprised me is M-Network games. Atari just grabbed like a dozen M-Network games. We talked about it not long ago. When it first happened, we talked about it here. And look, those are games that you could easily insert into this because, like Berserk, which Berserk was actually a first-party Atari game, but still, like Berserk, it was a game that wasn't owned by Atari, but had an Atari cartridge, just through a license agreement, same with M Network, and now Atari has those M Network games, so are those coming? Are they not coming? It's surprising that some of those didn't make it here, especially with the recent acquisitions, especially, suppose if someone at Atari is trying to justify the purchase of those things, let's go ahead and make something out of them now. It's applaudable that this is not paid DLC, that this is just an update, free games. Keep going. Here's more, which I think is fantastic. Now, this is just the beginning part. If you go a little deeper into the press release, I'm very happy, of course, that we got this update, very happy that we got all this stuff. And that brings the total, by the way, up to 115 games in the Atari 50 package, including new games and old games and homebrews and all the stuff, and unlockable games. Those are all in there. Here's the thing, though. On Video Game Chronicle, they say, and I quote, according to Digital Eclipse, more free updates are coming in the future with plans to include even more titles, more in-depth interviews, not just games, and more behind-the-scenes goodies from the golden age of gaming. Now, I have to think this is happening because Atari purchased Digital Eclipse, and it makes sense for Atari to continue to improve a product that showcases Atari and shows them in the best light. I wonder, I would love to be a fly on the wall to know whether or not there was ever an intent for Digital Eclipse to continue to update this package, or whether or not that was a plan that came along once Atari acquired them. I'm not saying one or the other is good or bad news, but as an independent company, I would think DE was ready to move on to their next thing, their next Gold Master series, the next Karateka, those kind of things. Good for them. But I have to think probably Atari kind of gave them the motivation to let's spend a little more time on Atari products rather than something else. So depending on whether you're an optimist or a cynic, you may see this as Atari flexing its muscle over Digital Eclipse and telling them what they have to do, more Atari stuff. Could be, or it could be, now that the two are together and they're married, they're trying to make the best of this new partnership's the wrong term, this new arrangement now that they're now under the umbrella of Atari, to use their resources to make Atari products even better. Although DE has said that they're not going to be hamstrung by Atari to prevent them to work on non-Atari stuff. That remains to be seen, and that's the part I think we need to keep a close eye on moving forward. If you're going to use those resources to only work on Atari stuff, then it's not quite holding true to what we heard when the acquisition took place. And I find that, I like the new games, but I find that little wrinkle the most interesting part of this new holiday content update that dropped for the anniversary celebration here. What do you think? Do you think I'm way off base? What do you think is happening with Digital Eclipse? Are there any games that you particularly wish had been on this update or are hoping for in a future update? Please let me know down in the comments. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this quick video, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.